So let us know how you're feeling. How are your chakras? Do you feel more aligned? Are you more limber? Let us know in the chat. But right now we are getting ready for our, we're getting ready for our first in-person session. You can see these 3 chairs set up behind me. So we have a really great panel on generational wealth in health, youth-centered healing. Yeah, take that out. And we're going to be speaking with 3 experts in this space as they are getting themselves together behind me. Let's move the camera so that, there you go. All 3 are in there. Alrighty, awesome. So let me introduce our panelists and our moderator. We are speaking today with Margo Jordan, CEO and founder of Youth Enrichments, which is leveraging technology and data to deliver self-esteem-based solutions to children. We are also speaking with Tafari Miller, behavioral. We are speaking with Tafari Miller, behavioral specialist and founder of AYA Counseling Services. Both of these 2 are actually Houston locals, so that's why they're joining us live in person. And we have our moderator, Chris Reed, who is a Youth Sports and Recreational Program Director. He's the lead consultant for We Coach, and they are so about their mission for increasing social impact through sport. They flew him out here to moderate for us in person. So I'm gonna just ask Chris a really quick question so he can get his own insights in, and then I'll hand it off to him to moderate. But Chris, can you let us know what is trauma-informed and why does it matter in sports?
So trauma-informed sports, it matters because it's healing. The great thing about sports is it's already built into where the things that children need, relationships, structure, goal setting, is already built in, but having the focus of trauma-informed and understanding how to help children heal, it blends well together. So that's really what We Coach is all about. And so today we're gonna have a little bit of a conversation about these things. And so I'm gonna start with our first question. Why is mental health awareness important for our young people, especially our young people of color? Ladies first.
So for me, mental health awareness is important because I feel like young people need to know where they're going. And in order to know where they're going, they need to be in the right mindset. There are so many missed opportunities because youth are not in the right mindset, and they'll get themselves into a variety of different troubles, whether those are legal troubles or whatever they may be, because their mental health is not as stable as it should be. And they don't recognize when they're going through things. And then when they're going through things, those, they get to portray themselves in their actions. And I feel like when they're aware of these certain mental health issues that they may be going through, they're better able to, or they're better equipped to handle those issues, giving them the tools that they need to really reach whatever full potential they may be capable of.
That's well said. My intake on it is that what makes it important because it's a growing problem. Whether parents or the community care to recognize it, we see that the numbers are growing. I was looking at the CDC, cdc.org on adolescents who suffer with mental health, and it's like 9.4% and growing. And we're seeing that a lot of it is stemming, is focused on, a lot of them are struggling with anxiety, depression, for the most part, which that turns into different things. So it's a growing problem that we need to address. There's no way we can ignore it anymore. Because we see how those behaviors are expressed in the community.
So that's one of the things before we started, Margo and I were talking about how I think our generation, we're starting to wake up and focus on these things. How do we help the next generation? So I want to know from both of you, how do you, in the work that you do, help young people who have been through things, who are facing mental challenges or facing traumas in their life? How does your work impact that adversity?
So for me, I focus on self-esteem development. I think that a lot of things stem from unhealthy self-esteem, teen pregnancy, low academic achievement, bullying, suicide. All of these things stem from low self-esteem. So what I do is I work to really develop that self-esteem in kids, and not only in kids, but myself as well, and adults. I work to develop self-esteem so that we can start to see a shift in their mindset. When we start to see a shift in their mindset, then we start to see a shift in their behavior. And then from that shift in behavior, we start to see a shift in their overall condition. So things like teen pregnancy start to decrease. Things like bullying, suicide, and then we start to see an increase in things like academic achievement and overall student success. So self-esteem development for me is key, because we hear a lot about social and emotional wellness, right? But the thing about social and emotional wellness is none of these things really talk about self-esteem. So you can teach a kid about growth mindset, about resilience, which are all components of social and emotional learning. But if they don't feel worthy of setting a goal or reaching that goal, then we're teaching them things, but we're not giving them that key component to really reach that level of attaining those goals. And then we're reminding them of why you need to have a growth mindset. You are worthy, right? So when their self-esteem is developed and it's increased to a healthy level, then they start to look at themselves differently and they start to want to attain goals. So that's really what I do in my work.
That's good.
Very, very important. I've always maintained that our young people, especially young Black men, don't understand and see their worth. Sure. And so if I'm giving you tools, if I'm giving you all these things, but every day you look in the mirror and you don't see that, it's never going to apply to you. It just does not matter. So I'm very happy that you are doing that and attacking like the one thing that people don't understand. It's like Jenga. You take that piece out, everything comes. Everything goes.
So true.
Can you restate the question for me?
How do you support youth in the work that you do that have either dealt with mental health issues or have been through traumatic experiences? How does your work attack that?
I would say initially, from my experience, is just, I guess the first thing I try to focus on is being present. Just being there, just being a listening ear. I know a lot of times, a lot of adolescents, they shy away from, if I'm just coming in with, hey, we're going on this skills training, this, have you had any suicidal ideations, homicidal ideations? They kind of shy away from that, put them on the spot, versus me just being there to listen to see what's going on. Spending time with the parent to see what's her parenting styles, what's going on in the house, how is she disciplining her child, how does this child relate to their peers at school, what are the behaviors that's being exhibited. So from there, I can get a concrete understanding or a holistic understanding of child, even going into nutrition. What are they eating? What are your eating habits? What are your snack habits? What are you eating tonight? Does that affect the way you think and how much energy you have or ability to process information and whatnot? So, so for me, for the most part, I'm an observer. I'm collecting that. And I do that best by listening. Initially, I don't even give too much eye contact. I'm just all ears. For me personally, my ears are my eyes. This is what I'm looking at. I'm looking with these, and I'm listening for cues and see how I can definitely, from there, I can formulate a treatment plan to focus on what that child needs and how to help them get to the next level.
That's amazing. You know, a lot of people don't understand when you work with youth, relationships matter more than anything else.
Number one thing.
If you come into the door too abrasive or too hokey or too this, too that, they'll brush you off, especially if you've dealt with things. The other thing I always joke with people that I train and I work with is wherever you were on day one, you got to be there on day 1,000. You can't switch up, you know, and so building that relationship and being consistent with that is so, so important. And listening, like that's the one thing our young people don't have the opportunity for people to listen to them. And if you think about how people of color were raised over the years, children didn't have the opportunity to express themselves or say, hey, I'm feeling this or I'm feeling that. It's usually dismissed. So it's amazing that you're coming in the door with that mindset. I want to listen. I want to see where your foundation is. I want to see how your life is before I can step in and interject and say, this is how I can help.
Definitely. Another point is especially when you're dealing with families with broken homes where the father is not around. And you coming in trying to implement something. And so that child just want to see that you kind of reintroducing this child to masculine energy and what a real man what a real man is and how a real man operates in society. So it's very important.
It's definitely a shift when you're introducing something into a household or to a situation that's been missing, and you're not blood related. You're basically a stranger off the street.
Yes, sir.
And so your approach is amazing. Like coming in, you're listening, you want to understand the foundation. A lot of times, people, they'll blame stuff on other things. Or the school district doesn't do this. These people don't do that. But nobody takes the time to understand there's a full picture. It's a holistic approach to working with people, and especially working with little people and young people that are developing. So it's amazing to hear the approach that both of you have. They're very, very important and very pinpointed to things that are often glazed over or skipped over. So my next question, how do we break up the stigma of mental health or trauma when it comes to our young people? A lot of times mental health or therapy or things like that are seen as derogatory or negative things that kids have to be involved in because of behavior issues. But this whole thing that we're a part of today is about our wellness. So how do we help break that stigma up from mental health and therapy to youth wellness and development?
So for me, what I like to do, and I've been doing this since I've had my brick and mortar, I like to talk openly about mental health. And I like to really make it cool for kids. Something that I do that's super unique is we bring in like celebrity guests and we'll talk about different issues. For example, we just had the cast of Disney's Raven Home. They came and they spoke about social media and self-esteem and how it affects their self-esteem. So the entire cast was able to, they were humanized amongst my target audience, which are children. So they were able to see these people that they generally see on TV talk about issues that they go through. And they made it such a common thing that all of the kids on the webinar related to what they were going through. So doing things like that and then educating ourselves on what mental health might be. A lot of people are uneducated, and that's where that stigma comes. So I think that if a lot of people realized the effects of mental health and how it affects so many other things in your lives, I think people will place it at more of a priority. People look at physical health and they place that at a priority because they see, okay, well, I need to lose weight in order to be healthy. But they don't place mental health at a priority because they're not looking at it as something that you can really see, right? You can see yourself losing weight.
Can't see the pounds dropping off.
You can't see that because it's a mental thing. But it definitely manifests itself in different areas of your lives. So educating yourselves and then making it cool, right? When we make things cool, people start to listen for some reason. So I think that how the media is really playing mental health, like, okay, everybody needs to take mental health more serious. I think it's making it more important. It's placing it at more of a priority for not only parents, but teachers. There's been such a demand increase for social and emotional learning, especially in schools, coming out of the pandemic. And it's like you said earlier, the anxiety levels of the kids have skyrocketed. So now people are starting to see more than ever, okay, we need to get a handle on the mental health of children, because children with mental health issues turn into what? Adults with mental health issues. And then we never see those toxic cycles break because we're dealing with things over and over and over and over. So those are some of the things that I think are important to really make mental health awareness important and place that priority in society today.
So one thing you touched on was the pandemic, right? And I think it's great that there's a new focus on it, because I'm watching children in Los Angeles and Beverly Hills try to readjust to going back to school and going back to summer camp. And it is a nightmare because they've been at their own devices for over a year. They've been able to pick their own schedule, play their games when they want to, put their headphones on, and now they have to go back into Gen Pop, basically. Like they go back into the classroom where their needs aren't being met at the time they need them to be met right there by that adult that's in the room, because it's other children. And so I think the landscape is going to change and shift to where, how can we put more supports, and not the social worker that's in the school, but more so the youth worker who can come in and help children in other ways. Because like you said, you can't see the pounds dropping off, but as an adult, you can check off, hey, I don't do these things anymore. I don't have these behaviors anymore. I don't overeat when I'm stressed anymore. Like
right.
you can, so I think we're moving more towards that for young people. And it's a great time for that because we're coming out of a pandemic where life has literally changed for everybody.
Yes.
Especially young people who don't have full control over it. Right. So how do we help them gain some type of control?
Yeah, and honestly, I think another way to help youth gain some type of control is really giving them the ability to understand what mental health is. So many schools, I feel like, and this is where kids spend most of their time, right, at school. And so many schools place other things at a priority. So physical fitness is super important, but I think placing athletics as a priority over mental health is not helping anything, right? Because we can teach kids that it's super important to, you know, reach these goals in the basketball team or in the football team, because those are generally the things that bring the schools the money, right? But if the kids' mental health is not well, then when they finish playing that game, then what's gonna happen? They're gonna go back to that unhealthy behavior that they had before. So I think when schools start to place more of a budget towards these mental health interventions, then we'll really start to see an impact, a difference in how these kids are acting. I'm a huge advocate in obviously self-esteem development. And I think when you start to see the self-esteem improve with kids, you'll start to see a shift in bad behavior, academics will increase. And all it's like everything is literally like a domino effect, right? So I think that's one of the things that we can do right now, place more of a budget towards mental health interventions for kids.
I would say definitely noticing just dealing with direct contact with a lot of schools in Houston is a big push for wraparound services for children. So they understand that the social worker is not enough. They understand they need somebody to not only be in the school, but go to the home. Because we know that it's, you know, we're dealing with a unit, like somebody help nurture this being and put them into the school system. So we have to go back to the home. What's going on with that parent? What are their coping skills? What type of habits they have in the household? So what brings up the stigma though, also, I think Sister, you said phenomenal points. It's just normalizing.
Yes.
And I think I see this going on like radio. You have I forget the name of the radio station off the top, but Charlemagne the Guy. He's always talking about mental health. You have any type of social media. You have Facebook, Instagram. It's being normalized. You have artists that's coming out and saying how they struggle with mental health. So
yes, there's a lot of that coming out.
So you hear it. I mean, listen, if I'm going to Johnny's house, he see me going to his neighbor house too. Like you see his peer that's getting receiving services as well. And then we have groups in peer settings, so we're normalizing it. So that's a few ways to break the stigma with mental health.
And to your point, to both of your points about normalizing, I think this approach also normalizes and gets back to that it takes a village type of mentality. You know, I think sense of community starts to come back because it's more caring adults. They're wanting to build relationships with young people who aren't their own, but to help them get to the next space, into a healthier space. So I'm glad that it's happening. It's going to start happening more. It's a push, but it's a push. But like you said, the budget also has to happen for these type of things to happen. But these also can happen innately through just the community and taking the village.
Yeah, well, I think when the point you mentioned about community, so what we've started to do in my company is we reach out to corporations because we know that they want to see a change in their community and they're advocates for the community, right? So if the schools can't afford our programs, then we'll reach out to corporate sponsors and say, hey, we have this amazing program. It's self-esteem development for youth. If you want to see a change in your community, we need your help because we have to place more of a responsibility on us, obviously, if the schools are taking too long. A lot of the schools that we go into, it takes them forever to get budgets approved, but the kids need the services right now. So what are we going to do in order to impact them right now, today, not next year, not the year after that? And the community is the answer, right? Like we have to place a responsibility on ourselves, and we have to place the mental health of our children at a priority, because I know it sounds cliche, but children are literally the future. So
you can't go around it. That's 100% true. We usually tackle it from, not to say grassroots so much, just on the ground level, from community center to community center. What's the word I'm going to look for? I'm lost for words right now. Just connecting with different community centers and coming together to make a difference in the children's lives. So also that stems into the school system. So any that stems to local businesses, letting them be aware of what's going on in their immediate community. Is the village. When a lot of times I talk to parents, I'm calling them not as Tafari, I'm calling them as the voice of the village. And I need their assistance. A lot of parents want to help. Yeah. A lot of parents see that what they've been doing doesn't work. They see that what their parent did for them didn't work for them, and it's not working for their child. So when I call or I come into contact with them, it's mostly open arms for the most part.
Yeah.
So we have a question from the crowd, one of the crowd members. You had a question?
I would say I'm a teacher and a coach. So what y'all are saying is I like it. But I started answering my questions before y'all started talking too. So what I wanted to say, especially with the pandemic now, what I see from my school, I know all schools are different. Their demographics are totally different. The community that I work in, it is all businesses, and we don't have a single home. We have apartments, and it has a one parent within that apartment, or a grandma or somebody like that. And so it's more, what I've noticed within the pandemic, it's more of the teachers and or coaches are more trying to get their mental health to the state of, hey, come to school, get your education. It's not about the sports. It's about, getting out that home, because their parents expect them to go to work to pay for this bill since they're in a pandemic. And so it became more of a problem. Kids were failing because they couldn't come to school because they had to go get a job to take care of grandma, mom, and dad, or whoever was at home, or someone got sick and they're at the hospital, and no one's paying the bills. And then next thing you know, you think a 14-year-old is taking care of our household, and comes out of extra mental mind. And so what I saw more as a teacher is more, hey, how you doing? Let's sit down and talk. And school became a safe place, like a relief of more. I don't have to go home and worry about taking care of my brother and sister or my grandma. I can just be here, get a full meal, because we provide breakfast, lunch, and dinner for our kids at the school I work at. And so then that means the teacher's there from 6:50 in the morning to pretty much 7 o'clock at night to make sure those kids get food, and then they get on the bus that takes them back home, and then come back the next day and say, okay, where's your mind at today to get this work done, in those sense. So I think sometimes it's not more on how can we get the kids' mental health, but how do you get the teachers prepare those kids for mental health, because their parents can't do it. So what kind of programs do y'all have that could affect teachers to teach that? Because then, me personally, I am not the perfect mental minded person ever, but I'm sitting here trying to say, all right, I can go back to religion to help this person, but if they don't practice my religion or they have something different, how can I affect them? And so then more it becomes, all right, let me read a book to help them. And then we get guest speakers and stuff, but then, guest speakers that come to a big district don't focus on, African American kids. My school is actually more Hispanic than Black, and then white is minority school. But how do we affect those kids? We can't get speakers that just come and say, the kid is here to learn, and you're like, no, right? So like, what kind of programs do y'all have that can help the mental mind of a teacher or a coach to help that kid? Because the only person really that cares about, or what they think cares about them in their life, is that teacher or that coach. Yeah. So it's like I take it really personally, because I give a lot of my time. I just texted a girl today because she's going to graduate, and her sister kicked her out of the house. Her grandmother died. Her parents don't have custody of her. So she texted me, hey, how do I get through this final step? I have nowhere to go. She doesn't want to transfer schools. So her brother's taking her in. And then now it's just like, okay, how do you keep her at this school? Because she's around a safe group of adults who care about her. But then my mind is like, shoot, when I was 16, I didn't deal with that. So how do I help this kid mentally get through her senior year, graduate, go do what she wants to do, knowing that all that's left in her family is her sister and it kicks her out. And now she's homeless. You know, she's classified as a homeless student. So how do I help this kid mentally become something, I guess, stable?
Right.
So
no, you're fine. Because I get this question a lot. So we have a self-esteem development program for teachers, and schools implemented during like the professional development days. So my approach, whenever I am teaching about self-esteem development, I'm also teaching about things like manifestation, always keeping a positive mindset, no matter your situation, no matter how bad it looks. When you keep a positive mindset, then these positive things, you're attracting those to yourself. But when you're thinking about things negatively, then you're always attracting something negative. And I know it's difficult to say that when you're in the moment of something really, really, really bad. But I allow my students to practice this like one day at a time. And every time they put this in practice mode, they start to see things in a positive light. So as far as our like self-esteem development program for the teachers, I think one of us mentioned it earlier. A lot of kids, they're either spending time at home or at school. So it's super important to, like you said, you teach the parents, like you want to find out where the parents are coming from. We also want to find out where the teachers are coming from, because a lot of your mindset, you're pushing on to that student. So we have to put the teachers in the mindset of, okay, where is your self-esteem? Because what you're displaying, that student is also seeing, right? So they're seeing exactly what it is that you're displaying. So in order for the teachers to be in that right mindset, we have to teach you, okay, what is self-esteem? Where is your self-esteem? Are you doing positive affirmations in the morning? Are you working out? Are you eating right? Because if they see you not doing the right things, but they're looking at you like you're a role model, then they're only going to continue in that toxic cycle. And they're only going to continue with those unhealthy coping mechanisms. So we teach you all, okay, these are healthy coping mechanisms. This is what it looks like to have a healthy self-esteem. And there's a huge difference between self-esteem and confidence. You can have all the confidence in the world as a teacher, and you know what you're doing in your job, but your self-esteem is still low because you see yourself making these bad decisions. You're self-sabotaging. So how can you preach something to a student to do better if you're not doing better yourself, right? So that's literally what I do. And I work at this every single day because I'm such an advocate for self-esteem development. I work on myself every day. It's a nonstop thing. Every day you wake up in the morning, you do 5 minutes of silence, 5 minutes of positive affirmations, 5 minutes of a vision statement. Allow that student to look at where they want their lives to be. I don't care what your life looks like right now. Where do you see yourself 6 months from now, 30 days from now? Okay, so visualize yourself there. And I guarantee you, it may not look like it right now, but as long as you stay focused on that positive aspect, that positive mindset, then it will manifest itself. So we do a lot of that teaching to teachers. And we try to do a lot of that teaching to parents as well, because when the students aren't at school, they're home with the parents. So it's a lot of making sure that the people that these kids are looking up to, we have to make sure that you all are in the right mindset to teach them these things. And it all starts, you have to start somewhere. So that's something that my company does to make sure that the teachers are in the right mindset. A lot of the same practices that we do with kids, we have to make it cool for you all to want to better yourselves, want to personally develop yourselves so that your kids, your students are better.
That's it. It's like, you know what? You pretty much say the things that I'm already thinking. So I'm going to piggyback off of what you said. For the most part, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. Grounding yourself. Adopt that child emotionally, spiritually. Try to understand the shoes she walks in. Be there, be present, be there with her. Adopt her family. And when I know you can't do that for all, I know teachers have like 27 students in the classroom, plus depending on where you at. Yeah. So, I mean, you can't do it for everybody, but you know, you gotta, I'd say you pick and choose. However, you definitely have to connect to those that are in danger of going astray. And you can see, you have eyes to see. So you have to, it's heavy. And it's a lot of work. And of course you can't do it alone. So you have to see what resources the school have available that you can utilize for this family. I don't know what district you are in, school district you're in, but I don't know if they have a wraparound service at your school. Connect with them, that connect to different social service agencies, since you can't do it alone. And then you connect with a counselor that can actually go out and do more, connect to different resources in that community that can help out that family, especially that's focused on that child. So I work, when I'm the owner of IA Counseling Services. We do assessments, treatment plans. From there, we're looking at barriers and way to help that child be successful. Not just for the child, we're doing it for the parent as well. Case management skills. What is this parenting styles? And when I go back, I'm just pretty much saying what I said already. You have to go back to the basics. Put yourself in that child's shoes. What would you require to be successful? That's my take on it. We can go into coping skills, things of that nature, right? The queen already put that out there.
So in my organization, we work with school districts as well as sports programs. We train teachers, we train administrators, because it starts top bottom. You know, if your leadership doesn't see the importance of what you're doing, the impact that it's going to have, you know, that's when we come in. You know, we work in Chicago, we work in Milwaukee with school districts to try to help them build a holistic approach, not just a sports approach, but a holistic approach to mental health and trauma, and understanding how to help kids, whether you're the janitor, whether you're the principal. Like, we all have a responsibility, if we're in a building with you every single day, to help them and support them in any way possible. So if you want to talk offline later, we definitely can, because we may be able to support you in some type of way. And man, you had a question as well?
I did. You may have answered it, but I'm going to ask you. How do children get to you? I mean, if there is a child that has a need, it sounds like what you're doing is like group work for organizations, but not anything for individual children. Is that what I'm hearing?
Me personally, or the group?
As a whole, I'm not sure exactly.
So for me, the name of my company is Youth Enrichments. We have a parent-facing platform called Enrichly, and parents can subscribe to that platform and they learn about self-esteem education. We also collect free data via our self-esteem surveys, which we leverage through CDC. So we're able to measure like where that student's or where that child's self-esteem is before they start our courses and as they continue throughout the course. And then we give them certain courses of action. So parents can sign up and they'll subscribe. It's $9 a month for them to subscribe, but they get access to all of the courses. They get access to the mental health resources that we have. We connect them with therapists so that the appropriate intervention takes place if need be.
I would say, as far as myself, I work through a brick and mortar, Say Hi Youth Fitness Center. We're located in the Third Ward area. I can give you my contact later if anything. Say Hi Youth Fitness Center focuses on survival, education, health, and African history. So, and we work primarily focus on our Black and brown children. So they learn martial arts, they're learning weapons training, if I can say that. They're learning how to survive in the Western world. That's physically and mentally. Is a bunch of young men that's coming together to make sure the children are definitely receiving everything they need to be whole.
Me personally, I'm located in Los Angeles. My day job, I work with kids every day. I work for the city of Beverly Hills in Parks and Rec Department. I work for local governments. I work with professional sports teams. I work with kids hands-on for the last 20 years. The work I'm here doing today is as a consultant, we mostly focus on helping the adults help the kids. So we come in, we train coaches, we train staff members, we train teachers, we train administrators, we train business owners who want to volunteer, who want to help out, who see a need. We come in and train them how to work with kids. Very basic. So an example of that, our biggest client is Nike. I help train about 5,000 to 7,000 people a year for Nike. They are store employees who go out to the community and they volunteer. It's a program that Nike put together years ago. We've been training for about 6 or 7 years now. So I mostly focus on the adults and how to help them help young people in their community and have a stronger reach. Like we said, it's helping to build that village, because a lot of times with adults that just don't know how to help and what to do. They don't have the tips and traits, and so things that they may see, they don't act on it because, hey, that's not my problem, it's not my kid. But if we're having that village mindset, that community mindset, that's where we come in. We come in and help you at least help out. So that's what we do. So with that, what are some tips or tricks or traits that you can give just the average adult to help a young person?
At the top, I would say to be in tune with self and see what they are personally going through. You can't help me if you haven't helped yourself. So, and I see that a lot of times with parents, they say, well, my child is doing this. He's flipping off the chairs. He's putting holes in walls. He's cursing me out in front of everybody else. I can running around trying to catch him in Walmart. He's going through aisles. I'm saying, but what is your mental health? What are you doing? Is my question. Like, well, what are you doing? How are you addressing that within yourself and whatnot? So I kind of lost track for a second. However, restate the question for me.
How do we help adults? Like what tips or tricks or traits would you have?
Sorry, good people. Just as far as getting tuned in our own mental health, are you going through therapy? Do you have a therapist? Every therapist I know have a therapist. How are you treating yourself? What are your coping skills? Are you taking care of yourself? So if you can't take care of yourself, if you're not tending to yourself, then that's where the problem begins. So that's the focus.
So for me, I would tell adults to encourage children to talk more about their feelings. And I have to remind my boys of this. I have 2 boys and a girl, 10, 7, and 2. But my older boys, I'm always telling them it's okay to talk about your feelings. And even at the ages that they're in, even though I am their mother, they still get from society, well, it's not cool to talk about your feelings. So I think encouraging kids to talk about your feelings, talk about if you're angry, and then tell them how to deal with the anger. A lot of kids don't know what to do with the anger that they have. So they start to show out in different areas. Whenever I see my kids acting out, I'm always like, okay, what's wrong with you? What's going on? Because clearly there's an issue, right? And I know that it's stemming from something that they're feeling in the inside. So for adults who want to help children, encourage them to talk about their feelings. It's okay. And talk about your feelings to the kids. Yes. I have open and honest conversations to my kids. And I tell them how I'm feeling. I tell them when I'm angry, when I'm sad, so that they'll see, okay, well, if mom is talking about her feelings, then I can talk about mine too. And I also would tell adults to remind kids to stay some type of physical act.
Yeah.
Being physical active, literally, and I got into this regimen, so I'm a veteran and I'm generally active. But there was a period in my life where I just stopped going to the gym, I stopped working out, and I noticed how that took effect on my mental health. So about 3 years ago, I really got into the regimen of working out, even if it was walking, like just taking an hour-long walk, 30 minutes, or whatever the case was. Whenever my brain was foggy, I would just go out for a walk, and it made me feel so much better. So work out yourself as an adult, right? Dedicate 30 minutes a day to working out, 20 minutes a day, and then also encourage kids to stay active, because not only does it do wonders for their physical health, but it does wonders for their mental health. So reminding them of these things will really help them to place their mental health at priorities.
I just want to add on top of that. That's excellent. I was just thinking of something when you were speaking. I encourage parents to work out with your child.
Yeah.
And get that one-on-one time, that bond with your child. Go to the park, go walk with your son, walk with your daughter, kick around a ball, fly a kite, one-on-one activities. Especially when you notice that they have behavior problems.
Yes.
It's like some of that is attention-seeking behavior. It's a cry out. So embrace that child, and you can help curb a lot of those behaviors that's being expressed.
So true.
So I just want to add to what both of you share, which is amazing. I would tell adults to practice patience. We've all been there. We've all been children. We've all been kind of have our stuff railroaded, like, oh, it don't matter how you feel. You better get right. Practice that patience. Understand you were there at some point. And you don't want to send somebody that's like you both said, you don't want to send somebody down the same path that you had. For you, one of the things that I love, I used to love this one at every city, which is something called context map. Take put like white paper on a big wall, and we have adults give them markers and have them walk up. What do you see in this community every day? Write it out, in a big circle like a brain. Then go back and say, what do you think the kids see? And it helps them to understand, if you see this and they see this, it's a problem. How can you help them navigate through these things? Because a lot of times, like you said, young people just come into school later. I was that kid. I found safe haven in school because home was a wreck. So I was a terrible high school student. I wasn't there for school. I was there for safe space. And a lot of young people don't have a safe space. They don't have a safe space. They don't have a place to speak about their feelings. They don't have an adult they can connect with. And so if you practice patience and you provide a safe space, you're doing 80% of the work right there. So we got one last question. Just run out of time, but I think this is kind of going to be a good one. So like I said, we've all been there before, and in the Black community and communities of color, our generation is starting to wake up and see, mental health, emotional wealth is very important, right? But some adults don't get that, and it has impact. So what impacts can adult behavior have on the emotional, mental, and well-being and development of young
people? I have to laugh at that because it's pretty much what I've been saying. Adults is the root of all of that. Like, it's these parents. And I've been in this, I was a school teacher as well. It's the parents. They haven't addressed their own trauma. And so we're dealing with generational sins. And it's probably that could go back to their great-grandfather. Great-grandfather was a pimp. I'm pimping. It goes all the way down. We pimping since pimping. So not to make light of it. However, it's a problem, and we see it in our children and whatnot. I usually have a lot of great talks with. My focus is really like young men, teenagers, because I need them to get an understanding of the community, the state of emergency that we're in. Like when it comes to even having relationships with young girls, like you need to operate discipline until you're a grown man. Even for my young girls, you need to operate within discipline of your body. Understand who you are, your body, how it operates, and then exercise discipline. Know what it is. Spend time with, for young ladies, spend time with responsible grown women to know what it is to be a responsible grown woman. Young men, spend time with responsible men. So you know how it is to be a responsible man. Marry before you carry. Like teen pregnancy, like that needs to be eliminated. You need to be a responsible being before you can even enter in those types of relationships. And that will curb, that pretty much will knock out all this trauma we see. Yeah. If we have a firm understanding that, so we grounded in self-spirituality. And we playing our roles together. Yeah.
Totally agree with everything you just said. There was a book called It Didn't Start With You. And the author's name is Mark Bolin. I read this book about 2 years ago. And it talked about how we as adults, we do things that stem from like our grandparents and our grandparents. And I love the book. I love the message. I don't like how he doesn't really reference African American community and the traumas that we went through and how the traumas that our parents went through, they fall on us. And we do things that we don't even realize are stemming from their trauma. And I think that when a lot of adults, when they do things like, I'll just give you an example. My dad came to my house to fix my wall because my son was angry and he slammed the door and he put a hole in my wall. He didn't do it on purpose, but my dad came and fixed the wall. And my son tried to go behind my dad and help patch it up. And he kind of messed the wall up again. And my dad got super angry. And I was like, oh, well, that's not going to help anything. Right. And then we had like a whole conversation of, well, that's what I was taught when I was a kid. And I was explaining to him, well, that's not how I want to raise my kids. Because you were taught that, right, when you were growing up, but that doesn't work because it didn't work with me when I was growing up. I didn't appreciate when you did things like that. And I don't want to do my kids like that. So it goes back to educating ourselves. If you know better, you do better. I hear so many people or so many parents say, well, I did the best that I can. No, you didn't. Because educate yourself. Like, educate yourself. Figure out what it is that needs to be done different. Because that kid is still going to have that same anger issue if you come at them angrily, right? So educate yourself. Figure out how can I be the best parent possible. Figure out what are some of the best practices. And when you start to, it's super difficult to put these things into play when you've been taught something from yay high, right? You have to change your mindset. And really it goes back into self-esteem development. A lot of us as adults are carrying around these things that we've been taught since we were younger. And it's hard to break those, cycles. I read another book called The 4 Agreements. And it was really about super classic. And I read it maybe 5 different times because it's all about breaking these things that we were taught, right? In order to really see a positive change. Because ultimately, what do we want for ourselves and our kids? We want to be happy. We want our kids to be happy. So in order to get there, we have to break toxic cycles, develop a healthy mindset, and really reach our full potential. And if we want our kids to do that, we have to develop some type of healthy self-esteem. And remember, as adults, some of the things that we were taught when we were younger, we can't apply that right now today. So yeah.
What was the name of that book?
Which one? The 4 Agreements? Oh, the 4 Agreements.
The 4 Agreements.
Yeah. Oh, 4 Agreements. Yeah.
So thank you both. This was amazing.
We can go on with that one.
Right.
Yeah, that's why I told you that was going to be the one. But I think it's very important that we all understand that people of color have a generational trauma.
Yes, sir.
And we need to turn into generational wellness for our children.
Yeah.
You know, and it starts with, you know, this whole conference about how we eat, how we prepare, how we take care of ourselves, how we love ourselves, how we love our children, how we support our children, how we build a sense of community. So I thank you both for your time, your expertise. We have about 2 minutes if you want to just give a quick shameless plug of where people can find you.
Yes. So you can find Youth Enrichments on Instagram, youth_enrichments, and go to our website, youthenrichments.com, and sign up for our platform. You get 14 days free. If you would like to bring us into your school, your church, or organization, contact me at margo@youthenrichments.com, and we can come educate your staff on some self-esteem development, or we can implement programs with your students. And I'm on Instagram as Margo, MARGO, Baines, BAINES.
Tafari, you can find me at Seha Youth Fitness Center, located 5110 Martin Luther King Boulevard. Email address, tafarimiller@gmail.com. We help out with African Center Martial Arts. That's our primary basis. We teach youth how to protect themselves and their family. Also, women's self-defense. We help out, counseling, assessments, things of that nature, and to see where you at and see where we can help you, the person who you want to grow into.
And my shameless plug, Christopher Reed, I'm here on behalf of we coach. We are rebranding to the Center of Healing and Social Justice through Sport next month. And I want to plug a book that our founder and owner, Megan Bartlett, will be releasing next month. It is a kid's book on trauma. It is going live next month, so please check that out. But thank you all. Thank you both for the amazing work that you do. You all have been amazing. This conversation could go on. We could talk for hours.
No, we are.
We're going to keep talking. I really enjoyed this time with you both. So thank you so much.
Thank y'all. I hope y'all were catching all those gems, because we were in here in person just having a ball with all these really, really great insights and gem drops, right? Margo, you mentioned you need to teach self-worth before you can even talk about goals, because if a child doesn't believe that they're worthy of achieving that, it's not even going to go anywhere. So that's really, really insightful. Chris, you mentioned relationships are everything. Who you are on day one, you have to stay on day 1000. And that's so influential and instrumental in building relationships with children. And then Tafari, you hit on such a great point, and I want to segue us into the next section with this, but social workers in the schools are not enough. You have to go into the home, because we're dealing with an entire unit, an entire family that's teaching these coping mechanisms and all of these habits. And that's really why we have a whole section of this conference going on about relationships, whether it's relationships with our youth, with our melanin moms, or with our romantic relationships. Because once we step outside of ourselves, then we're able to see how our relationships with others affect our own mental health, and how our relationships with others are affecting their mental health. So I thank y'all so much. I'm getting like chills and goosey, just like recapping this. Y'all were amazing. Thank you all so much. I dropped your info in the chat. Make sure y'all connect with them. Our Kids and Families meditation teacher, Yvonne, she's very interested in getting involved with y'all and bringing meditation into schools. So make sure y'all connect. And yes, follow everyone. I see y'all dropping links in here, but I think we're good to move on to our next session. So
I forgot to tell everybody, next week, Saturday, there was going to be a TEDx youth talk. It's TEDx A-League. I'm going to be one of the speakers for my first TED talk. But because we're on the topic of youth, it's for youth. Parents become grandparents, aunts, uncles, but it's going to be a really amazing event. It's going to be at HCC, but if you would like more information, just hit me up in my DMs.
Yeah.
I can give you the website.
Regina will be there. Awesome.